Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Avyakto yamachintyo yam avikaryo yamachite tasmadevam viditena nanu sochit marasi.
Note 49 verse to start with.
Text 25 here. It is said that the soul is invisible, inconceivable, and immutable. Knowing this, you should not grieve for the body.
Atachenam nitya jatam nityam vamanyase mitam tatapi tvam mahabaho nenam sochit tamarasi.
If, however, you think that the soul or the symptoms of life will always be born and die forever, you still have no reason to lament, O mighty armed.
Jatasya hi dhruvo mrityur dhruvam janma mritasya cha tasman apar yaharyarte natam sochit tamarasi.
One who has taken his birth is sure to die, and after death, one is sure to take birth again. Therefore, in the unavoidable discharge of your duty, you should not lament.
Avyaktadini bhutani bhaktamadhyani bharata avyaktani dhanani eva tatradika paridevana.
All created beings are unmanifest in their beginning, manifest in their interim state, and unmanifest again when annihilated. So what need is there for lamentation?
Hare Krishna.
Ashyati kaschidena ascharya vadvadati tateva chanya ascharya vacchaina manya shinoti strupapi enam vedana chaiva kaschit.
Hare Krishna. Are we not starting from 49 verse?
Did we be doing 49 to 72? Is that what we have been doing?
Yes, Prabhu.
Yes.
Okay, I'm very sorry. We'll shift to 49 now.
Hare Krishna, I'm so sorry to mention 49 to 72.
No, it was good, Mataji. Thank you so much for the correction. Yes, Sridham.
Durena hiya varam karma buddhi yoga dhananjaya buddha sharanam anviccha kripana falahetava.
O Dhananjaya, keep all abominable activities far distant by devotional service, and in that consciousness surrender on to the Lord. Those who want to enjoy the fruits of their work are misers.
Buddhi yukto jana jahatiha ubeshokrita dushkrite tasmad yogaya yaya yoga karma sukoshalam.
A man engaged in devotional service rids himself of both good and bad reactions, even in this life. Therefore, strive for yoga, which is the art of all work.
Karma jam buddhi yukta hi param takpa manishinaha janma bandha vinirmukta padam gacchati anamayam.
By thus engaging in devotional service to the Lord, great sages or devotees free themselves from the results of work in the material world. In this way, they become free from the cycle of birth and death and attain the state beyond all miseries by going back to Godhead.
Yada te moha kailam buddhirvata te ashyati tada gantasi nirvedam shrutasya cha.
When your intelligence has passed out of the dense forest of delusion, you shall become indifferent to all that has been heard and all that is to be heard.
Shruti vipratiparate yadastasya sinishala samadavachala buddhis tada yogam avapshasi.
When your mind is no longer disturbed by the flowery language of the Vedas, and when it remains fixed in the trance of self-realization, then you will have attained the divine consciousness.
Arjuna uvacha Sita prajna sacha kabasa samadhi stasya keshava stihita di kim pravaseta kimashita vajeta kim.
Arjuna said, O Krishna, what are the symptoms of one whose consciousness is thus merged in transcendence? How does he speak and what is his language? How does he sit and how does he walk?
Shri Bhagavan uvacha Prajahati yada kaman Shravan partho manogatan Atmani vatmanatushta Stita prajna satojate.
The Supreme Personality of Godhead said, O Partha, when a man gives up all varieties of desire for sense gratification, which arise from mental concoction, and when his mind, thus purified, finds satisfaction in the self alone, then he is said to be in pure transcendental consciousness.
Dhukashanudviginamana Sukheshu vigata Spriha Vitaraga Bhaya Krodha Sitadir Muniruchite.
One who is not disturbed in mind, even amidst the threefold miseries, or elated when there is happiness, and who is free from attachment, fear, and anger, is called a sage of steady mind.
Ya Sarvatra Vinesh Nehas Tat Prapya Subhashubham Nabhinanandati Nadvishti Tasya Prajna Pratishtita.
In the material world, one who is unaffected by whatever good or evil he may obtain, neither praising it nor despising it, is firmly fixed in perfect knowledge.
Yada Samaharate Chayam Kurmodigna Nivasarvasa Indriyani Tebhyas Tasya Prajna Pratishtita.
One who is able to withdraw his senses from sense objects as the tortoise draws its limbs within the shell is firmly fixed in perfect consciousness.
Vishaya Vinivartante Niraharasya Dehina Rasa Varjam Rasopiyasa Param Dishva Nivartate.
One who is able to withdraw his senses from sense objects as the, though the embodied soul may be restricted from sense enjoyment, the taste for sense objects remains. But ceasing such engagement by experiencing a higher taste, he is fixed in consciousness.
Yatato hi api konteya Panchasya Pashchitaha Indriyani Pramatini Haranti Prashabham Mana.
The senses are so strong and impetuous, O Arjuna, that they forcibly carry away the mind even of man of discrimination, who is endeavoring to control them.
Tani Sarvani Samyamya Yukta Ashita Matpara Vashahi Yashish Indriyani Tasya Prajna Pratishtitaha.
One who restrains his senses, keeping them under full control, and fixes his consciousness upon me is known as a man of steady intelligence.
Dhyayato Vishayan Pumsa Sangaste Supajayate Sangat Sanjayate Kama Kamat Krodo Vijiyate.
While contemplating the objects of the senses, a person develops attachment for them, and from such attachment, lust develops, and from lust, anger arises.
Krodhat Bhavati Sammoha Sammohat Smriti Vibrama Smrit Brahm Sadbuddhinasho Buddhinashat Panashyati.
From anger, complete delusion arises, and from delusion, bewilderment of memory. When memory is bewildered, intelligence is lost, and when intelligence is lost, intelligence is
Ragadvesha Vimuktestu Vishayan Indriyescharan Atmavyashir Vidyetma Prasadam Adhikachati.
But a person free from all attachment and aversion and able to control his senses through regulative principles of freedom can obtain the complete mercy of the Lord.
प्रसदे सर्वदुःखानां हानिरासोपजायते प्रसन्ना चेतसो हि आसु बुद्धिपर्यतिष्ठते.
For one thus satisfied in Krishna consciousness, the threefold miseries of material existence exist no longer. In such satisfied consciousness, one's intelligence is soon well established.
नास्ति बुद्धिरयुक्तस्य न च युक्तस्य भावना न च भाव्यत्सन्ते अशान्तस्य कुतः सुखम्.
One who is not connected with the Supreme in Krishna consciousness can have neither transcendental intelligence nor a steady mind, without which there is no possibility of peace. And how can there be any happiness without peace?
इन्द्रियाणां हि चरतं यन्मानो निबुद्धीयते सरस्य हरति प्रज्ञां वायुर्नावम् एवं भसि.
As a strong wind sweeps away a boat on the water, even one of the roaming senses on which the mind focuses can carry man steady intelligence.
यानिश सर्वभूतानां तस्यं जागर्ति संयमी यस्यं जागर्ति भूतानि सानिश पश्यतो मुने.
What is night for all beings is the time of awakening for the self-control. And the time of awakening for all beings is night for the introspective sage.
आपर्यामानम् आपर्यानम् अचलापतिष्ठं सामुद्रमापा प्रविशन्ति यावत् तद्वत् कमायं प्रविशन्ति सर्वे स शान्तिमप्नोति न कामी.
A person who is not disturbed by the incessant flow of desires that enter like rivers into the ocean, which is ever being filled, but is always still, can alone achieve peace, and not the man who strives to satisfy such desires.
विहय कामन् या सर्वन् भूमं चारति निष्पृहः निर्ममो निरहङ्कारः स शान्तिम् अधिगच्छति.
A person who has given up all desires for sense gratification, who lives free from desires, and who has given up all sense of proprietorship and is devoid of false ego, he alone can attain real peace.
एष ब्रह्मी स्थितिः पार्थ नैनं प्राप्य विमुह्यते सेवास्यमन्तकालेऽपि ब्रह्मनिर्वाणमृच्छति.
That is the way of the spiritual and godly life, after attaining which a man is not bewildered. If one is thus situated, even at the hour of death, one can enter into the kingdom of God.
Thank you very much, Sridham Prabhu and Vatsala Mataji,
Thank you.
for the beautiful recitation and English translation. Today's verse is, I was just thinking that I thought the verse was Sthit Pragyasya Ka Bhasha, but then I just noticed the verse is 253, which is which is just a verse before that. So yesterday the verse was not verse was 52 or 53. Anybody can tell me? Okay, so I'll just do text 53 as given by Divyanam Prabhu on the WhatsApp chat. Let's stop sharing this first.
Yesterday it says, Hare Krishna Prabhuji, yesterday it says 53.
That's why I thought. So today we should do text 54, isn't it?
Yeah, yes, Prabhuji.
Yes.
Yes, Prabhuji, Hare Krishna. Today would be 54.
54.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. That's what I do. Thank you. Okay. So we shall be reading now text 54 of Bhagavad Gita, chapter 2. Arjuna Uvacha Sthit Pragyasya ka bhasha Samadhistasya Keshava Sthit Diya Kim Prabhasheta Kim Asita Vrajeta Kim. I'll read the verse again. It's a beautiful verse. Arjuna Uvacha Sthit Pragyasya ka bhasha Samadhistasya Keshava Sthit Diya Kim Prabhasheta Kim Asita Vrajeta Kim. Arjuna Vacha. Arjun said, Sthit Pragyasya, of one who is situated in fixed Krishna consciousness. Ka, what? Bhasha, language. Samadhistasya, of one situated in trance. Keshava, O Krishna. Sthit Dhiya, one fixed in Krishna consciousness. Kim, what? Prabhashet speaks. Kim, how? Asit, does remain still. Brajet, walks. Kim, how? Translation. Arjun said, O Krishna, what are the symptoms of one whose consciousness is thus merged in transcendence? How does he speak? What is his language? How does he sit? And how does he walk? Purport by Srila Prabhupada, Srila Prabhupada ki jai. As there are symptoms for each and every man in terms of his particular situation, similarly, one who is Krishna conscious has his particular nature, talking, walking, thinking, feeling, etc. As a rich man has his symptoms by which he is known as a rich man, as a diseased man has his symptoms by which he is known as a diseased, or as a learned man has his symptoms. So man in transcendental consciousness of Krishna has specific symptoms in various dealings. One can know his specific symptoms from Bhagavad Gita. Most important is how the man in Krishna consciousness speaks, for speech is the most important quality of any man. It is said that a fool is undiscovered as long as he does not speak. Certainly, and certainly, sorry, I've just missed the line. It is said that a fool is undiscovered as long as he does not speak, and certainly a well-dressed fool cannot be identified unless he speaks. But as soon as he speaks, he reveals himself at once. The immediate symptom of a Krishna conscious man is that he speaks only of Krishna and of matters relating to him. Other symptoms then automatically follow, as stated below. Om Jnanam Timirindasya Jnananjanashalakaya Chakshurun Militam Yena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Sthapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Utapad Kamalam Shri Kurum Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunathan Vitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savdutam Parijana Sahitam Shri Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padam Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakhanvitamscha. He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Deenabandhu Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostate Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Shri Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Rishbhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Vancha Kalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhu Bhaivacha Patitanam Pavnebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shrivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. I'll read the verse again. Sthit pragyasya ka bhasha samadhistasya keshava siddhiha kim prabhasheta kimasita vrajeta kim. O Krishna, Arjun said, O Krishna, what are the symptoms of one whose consciousness is thus merged in transcendence? How does he speak and what is his language? How does he sit and how does he walk? So it's a beautiful verse. And we can see there how the conversation is building up between Arjuna and Krishna now. Krishna started from the point that we are not this body and we are the soul. And the topic is now building up. And Arjuna is asking some deeper questions to Krishna. He's trying to understand that how a person, a soul, is merged into a matter. And if it does merge like this, then how one would realize that he is the soul? And if somebody realizes that he is the soul, or he is situated in transcendence, which means he's situated beyond the body. Beyond the body means beyond the modes of material nature. What is his symptom? How does he walk? How does he sit? How does he talk? It's quite a, from a mundane perspective, it's quite an amusing question. Somebody asks, oh, how does the president sit? How does the president eat? How does the president walk? Somebody can say, just like any other person. But because he's president or something special, to ask how does it, some people have certain style of talking, so somebody can ask how does he talk, but everybody knows we all talk by our mouth, we have language, we have words, we speak to our tongue, and that's how we talk. What different talking would anybody else do? And we can see how in this world we are all, one of my friend was working for this very big company, and he would tell me that the CEO of this company, he had the ability and stamina to talk from the time he would enter into the office, let's say at 8:30 a.m., till the time he would leave the office. And generally they would leave quite late in such positions, around 7:30, 8 o'clock. This person can speak non-stop constantly. People will come and go from the boardroom and he will still be talking. And he would know what he's talking after some time, because he would have already forgotten what he spoke an hour ago and 2 hours ago, but he just couldn't stop talking. He was obsessed with talking. And what will he talk? He'll talk about success. He'll talk about material goals. He'll talk about success of the companies, the profit, the loss, the stock market, the share, the product, the market, the customers, the organization, the process, the systems, the infrastructure, the cost, the finances, profits, loss, margins, all business KPIs. He was chief executive. Market will go up and down for that company. Investors will come and invest in the company basis his presence and what is he speaking. So we can see that how people in this material world, they can speak, are obsessed with their own businesses, and then they will speak about their product. For example, if there's a company with the name Apple, they will constantly speak about their mobile phone, their strategy on innovation. They'll create advertisements. They spend thousands and thousands of dollars and pounds to make sure that the voice of the product reaches to each and every person in the world, so that they can create sales pitch. And they will not be tired of talking about their own product. Take anything in this world and take any person in this world. They're all driving one or the other agenda. So this way we can see how people are obsessed to talk in a certain way. Political figures, they are constantly talking about their country, the benefit of the people, the policies that they are making to the advantage of the country, how strategically they are taking actions and decisions that their country will emerge as the next power in the world. They'll talk about their own history, they'll talk about their heritage, they'll talk about their other political figures whom they are taking inspiration from. They'll talk about their political parties. Like that, they are completely immersed into their agenda, completely immersed into their agenda. They have nothing else to talk about. So these days for cryptocurrency, and they don't feel tired of talking about it. They have so much of knowledge how this currency will help to grow wealth. And therefore one should invest into this market. It's a new instrument. It's the new wave. It's a new ray of light for those who are not yet made money. And then they can talk about it. They can talk to you for hours about it. That's how they relate themselves to this material world. So Arjuna's question is that everybody's talking about themselves. But a person who is sthit pragasya, one who is merged in transcendence. The word used merged in transcendence, which means he's once who is situated or who is fixed up in Krishna consciousness. How does he speak? What is his language? How does he sit? How does he walk? How is he any different from anybody else? What does he look like? His behavior is any different or is it the same? And his speech, is it any different from others? How do I recognize such people who are fixed in Krishna consciousness? What are the symptoms of such people? It's a very intriguing question. How do we figure out that who is, first of all, to begin with, what does it mean to be fixed in Krishna consciousness? And why are they talking about it? Why is it important to be fixed in Krishna consciousness? Okay, it's a forum where we are all practicing devotees, and therefore this question may not be so appealing. But the world outside, they would like to know, what is this Krishna consciousness? So the very question that we are the soul and we are not these bodies, then takes up to the next answer of that we are part and parcel of God, whose name is Krishna, which means all attractive. And therefore, one who is always fixed in trance, who is not affected by the matter, which has the power to implicate the body, but not the soul. Such people, they will always be in trance and they'll be able to focus themselves in Krishna. And by the example of nobody else but Srila Prabhupada himself, we have a live example of how such a person speaks. Thinking willing, and acting. Everything is in congruence. And that congruency is one-pointed, which is to please Krishna, which is to glorify Krishna. All the senses of such a personality like Srila Prabhupada is constantly meditating upon the form of Krishna. They're glorifying about Krishna. And just like that CEO, and just like that marketing person for a big tech organization, and just like that political figure who were driving their own agenda, we understand that how Srila Prabhupada was constantly driving the agenda of Krishna, agenda of God himself, the creator himself, the most powerful, the most beautiful, the most attractive. If one has identified himself as part and parcel of Krishna and realized that, he would not dwell around in the material platform any time, any moment, not even a single moment of. Now, Srila Prabhupada explains that there are Uttamadhikari, there are Madhyamadhikari, and there are the beginners. So, Uttamadhikari is always feeling, because he is the most advanced, he's always feeling that he does not have the qualification. He does not have the qualification to preach because he's the most fallen. So Uttamadhikari is constantly living in this internal consciousness that he is the most lowly and he's the most unqualified. And he genuinely feels it. He feels that everybody else is advanced, much, much advanced than himself. And they're all great devotees of the Lord, but I am not the devotee of the Lord. That's how he feels. So Srila Prabhupada explains that many times such Uttamadhikari, when they need to preach, they come to the platform of Madhyamadhikari. Now, Madhyamadhikari has a power of discrimination. They'll apply the power of discrimination. They can see who are the one who are devotees and who are the one who needs to become devotee. And basis that, then they can apply their intelligence and then give the literature or Krishna consciousness to those people who are in need of it. So therefore, Srila Prabhupada explains that such Uttamadhikaris, they come down to the platform of Madhyamadhikaris and then give the Krishna consciousness, the science of Krishna consciousness, to those who require and in this world. And we can see how Srila Prabhupada was always acting on the Madhyamadhikari platform so that the Krishna consciousness philosophy can be given to the whole world. He was hardly sleeping. In the night, he was translating the books, the literature, and in the daytime, he was practically showing to everybody, demonstrating that what a Krishna conscious person would do throughout the day. He would never feel tired of speaking about Krishna. From morning, 4:30, singing Mangal Aarti, chanting Japa, singing beautiful Tulsi prayers, Srimad Bhagavatam Katha, and then translating books, meeting guests, speaking about Krishna, talking to everybody about Krishna, going out for Harinam, inspiring devotees, making devotees, and throughout the day making prasadam, serving the deities of Krishna, and so on till night, taking rest for 2 hours, and then translating books of Krishna conscious literature for the benefit of the entire world. This is how a devotee of Krishna Sthit pragyasya ka bhasha. This is the language of a devotee of Krishna. He speaks nothing but Krishna. He speaks nothing but Krishna. So this is the question that Arjun was asking here. And we have a live example of what a devotee of Krishna could be like. And we are very fortunate to be very, very close to such a personality. Sorry. So we have many examples of such devotees from the scriptures. And in Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 9, there is a mention of Maharaj Ambrish. I'll read some verse and then I'll read the translation, and we see how a devotee of Krishna is like. Save manaha Krishna padara vindayo vachamsi vaikunda gunana varnani karau harer mandir marjanadishu tutim chakara satpathodaye mukunda lingalay darshane dashau angasaroj saurabhe Srimad Tulasya Rashanam Tadarpite Padau Hare Kshetra Padanusharpane Shiro Rishikesha Padhavinandane Kamam Chadasya Natu Kama Kama Yaya Yatho Tamashloka Janasha Pratihi. So in this translation, it is explained that how Maharaj Ambrish senses in the service of the Lord. So it says, Maharaj Ambrish always engaged his mind in meditating upon the lotus feet of Krishna. His words in describing the glories of the Lord, his hands in cleansing the Lord's temple, and his ears in hearing the words spoken by Krishna or about Krishna. He engaged his eyes in seeing the deity of Krishna, Krishna's temples, and Krishna's places like Mathura and Vrindavan. He engaged his sense of touch in touching the bodies of the Lord's devotees. He engaged his sense of smell in smelling the fragrance of tulasi offered to the Lord. And he engaged his tongue in tasting the Lord's prasad. He engaged his legs in walking to the holy places and temples of the Lord, his head in bowing down before the Lord, and all his desires in serving the Lord, 24 hours a day. Indeed, Maharaj Ambrish never desired anything for his own sense gratification. He engaged all his senses in devotional service in various engagements related to the Lord. This is the way to increase attachment for the Lord and be completely free from all material desires. So we can see that how Maharaj Ambrish was using all the senses of this body in the service of the Lord. All the active senses, including the mind. Now, for some, the deity of the Lord could be just a stone. But Srila Prabhupada explains that because we cannot see the transcendental form of the Lord, therefore, the Lord mercifully descends in the form of the deity. Now, this deity can be made of Ashtadhatu, stone, metal, whatever it is. And then he further argues that even though if it is a stone, why can Krishna not be present in that stone? Because Krishna is present in each and everything that exists. Then he argues that a conditioned soul, for him, there is a matter and there is a spirit. But for Krishna, everything is same. For him, It is all his part and parcel, and for him, it is all his energies. If somebody from this point of reference may feel it's a stone, it's a stone statue. But then from Krishna's point of view, it is his own energy. Why can't he be present in his own energy? So, in the purport, Srila Prabhupada explained, Rishi Kena Rishi Kesha Sevanam Bhaktaruchyate. Bhakti means to engage the senses in the service of the Lord, or service of the master of the senses, Krishna, who is called Rishikesha or Achyuta. So Krishna, he is the master of everything. He is the master of all that exists. He can be present in the deities because he decides to do that. Because he has mentioned that in his scriptures, when his pure devotees invite him to the form to be worshipped by his devotees, he descends into the deities. And he's the master of all the senses. When we serve Krishna, Srila Prabhupada was giving a very beautiful example. And when a devotee is constantly serving the deities of the Lord and making sure that the deity of the Lord are looking very beautiful, they're dressed very nicely with all nice colorful dresses, beautiful fragrance, flowers, nice hairs, clips, nice turban, necklaces, Vajanti mala, Tulsi mala, all kinds of flowers, scents, incenses, and the deities are offered with nice food stuff, cooked with lot of love and devotion, and deities are happy. The devotees, they don't have to go anywhere else for the proof whether this person, this deity is God or not, because Srila Prabhupada says that when you serve deities like this, the devotee himself feels completely fulfilled within. He feels complete happiness within. And that is the sign of God's existence, he says. So if one is serving the deities of the Lord with lot of love and devotion, just like a hungry man, a starving person, when he gets food, he feels satisfaction within. Nobody needs to come and tell him that, look, this is the kind of food, this is how it tastes, this is how it will satisfy your hunger. No. Once eaten, there is no explanation required. Similarly, Srila Prabhupada explains that once somebody is worshipping the deities of the Lord, a devotee of the Lord, when worshipping the deities of the Lord, feels full satisfaction within himself. And when he feels the satisfaction, then he knows that Krishna exists. Because just by serving the root of the tree, all other parts of the plant become green and nourished. Similarly, when we are serving the master, Rishikesha, then we are actually ensuring that all other parts and parcels, like living entities and oneself, they are completely fulfilled and feel complete satisfaction within themselves. So, like this, Srila Prabhupada explains that one who is situated in the self, sthit pragasya, because he has no other desires but to serve Krishna. And there's a beautiful verse from Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu. Anabhilashita shunyam jnana karmana vratam anukulena krishnanushilanam bhaktiruttamam. One should render transcendental loving service to the Supreme Lord Krishna favorably, without desires for material profit or gain, through fruitive activities of philosophical speculation. And this is called pure devotional service. Now, within the course of development of a spiritual consciousness, one would go through the mix of material and spiritual consciousness. Let's say the subtotal is 100. Initially, the spiritual consciousness could be 2%, and 90%, 98% is material. But as devotee advance, the percentage of a spiritual life or spiritual consciousness will increase. It will become 2 to 10 to 20 to 40 to 50, 50-50. Now the devotee is looking for a balance. Oh, this is spiritual, this is material. How do I do it? But as the devotee advances, very gradually, he would find himself in understanding that everything is spiritual. There's nothing material. Material because we see from the material eyes. But those who could see from the transcendental eyes, Premanjana Bhakti Vilochalena Santa Sadeva Deshu Vilokayanti. Those devotees whose eyes are anointed with love of Krishna, love of Godhead, they will always be able to see Krishna in everything. And they will be able to see Krishna in their heart 24/7. Such devotees of the Lord, they would not distinguish between material and spiritual because for them everything is Krishna. So that state where one would not have any other desire, because you can't see material, therefore there will be no material desires. It's logical. Anabhilashita shunyam. No other abhilasha, no other desires. Gyan karmadi navratam. And not covered by the knowledge or by the philosophy of karma, fruitive activities. It's a transition, it's a phase. And we understand that how, when we come in close contact with devotees, we start with the bhajan kriya, sadhu sangha, bhajan kriya. And by doing so, we come to the stage of anartha nivritti, where we get rid of all the anarthas in our heart. Unwanted desires. Unwanted desires means the material desires, which are not in favor to serve Krishna, are called material desires. Same person, same activity, but the intent is to serve Krishna becomes spiritual. But if the intent is not to serve Krishna, then it's not a spiritual desire, it's a material desire, because the intent is to serve my own senses, Buddhas. Therefore, Anabhilashita Shunyam stage is reached. That means that a devotee now can see everything is spiritualized, everything is spiritual, and hence, in that capacity, he can serve Krishna. Srila Prabhupada said, you give me $1 million every day, and I will show you how to spend this $1 million every day in the service of Krishna. Srila Prabhupada never emphasized on creating a big bank balance. He said, you earn money from here and you spend money from this end. Just like a cashier in the bank, he would be counting millions of dollars every day. But for him, that money belongs to the bank and not to him. So he takes money from this end and puts this money from the other hand to the other side of the till or the trailer. Similarly, a devotee of Krishna understands that everything belongs to Krishna. Istit pragasya ka bhasha. What language does a person speak? He speaks this language. He speaks the language that Krishna is the proprietor. Bhoktaram yagya tapasam sarvalok maheshwaram. Krishna is the enjoyer. And when he understands this, he speaks that language and he behaves like that. He would not utilize it for his own senses. Just like tortoise, he withdraws all his senses within his cell. Similarly, when it comes to enjoying my own senses, a devotee will withdraw all his senses. But when it comes to enjoy the senses of Krishna, devotee will pull out all his resources, all his senses, and make sure that Krishna is given the best service. So such a devotee will free himself from all the material designations. He'll be cleansed of all the material contamination within. He'll be restored to his pure identity. That is the part and parcel of Krishna and the servant of Krishna. Sarvapadhi vinurmaktam tatparatvena nirmalam rishikena rishikesha sevanam bhaktiruchyate. That is the definition of bhakti given by Narad Pancharatra. To serve Krishna. So we shouldn't have any material designations. That is what a pure devotee is like. So we see the answer to the question is very transcendental of what Arjun is asking here. And Prabhupada said that just like a diseased man has some symptoms, a rich man has some symptoms, so a transcendental man has also some symptoms. He does not speak anything but about Krishna. And he says that a well-dressed fool cannot be identified unless he speaks. So we can see how when materialistic person speaks, they will speak about the material prosperity, material gains, and they will never be able to talk beyond life. So we can see that all the literature, all the speech, all the language that is being spoken around us throughout the world is about how to live a better life. Only literatures like Srimad Bhagavatam and Srimad Bhagavad Gita speaks about how can we live a better life beyond our death. What lies ahead? Prabhupada says, okay, in this life you are one of the richest. Do you know what is your next life? If you become a dog, then is that a success? And so he has condemned this two-legged, he said two-legged civilization, animal civilization, or he has said motor civilization, many such words. There are more pastimes from Srimad Bhagavatam about Maharaj Chitraketu when he finally realizes that he is beyond death and his son who died was a spirit soul. And then he finally got darshan of Sankarshan, Lord's expansion, by the mercy of Narad Dev. There's a conversation between Sankarshan and Naradji and Chitraketu. And some of those conversations are very, very relevant, where Lord Sankarshan is speaking to Chitraketu. And he says, in this world of matter, Lord Sankarshan is speaking to Maharaj Chitraketu. Lord himself is speaking right now. In this world of matter, which the conditioned soul accepts as consisting of enjoyable resources, the conditioned soul expands, thinking that he is the enjoyer of the material world. Similarly, the material world expands in the living entity as a source of enjoyment. You see, Lord is saying that both the material world and living entity, they both are expanding into each other. In this way, they both expand. But because they are my energies, they are both pervaded by me. As a Supreme Lord, I'm the cause of these effects. And one should know that both of them rest in me. Such a beautiful verse. Both are thinking they are independent. Material energy is also working under the supervision of the Lord. So that's the material energy. A living entity is still thinking himself independent. He is also working under the direction of Prakriti, material nature. And so Lord Sankarshan is saying that here. Loke vittatam atmanam. Loke vittatatmatmanam. Lokam chatmani santatam. Ubhayam cha maya vyaptam. Mai chaivo bhayam kritam. So they both are expanding into each other and they are thinking themselves to be independent. And Lord is saying that I am the cause of these effects. So one who is sthit pragasya, he understands this. And therefore, in full knowledge, he will continuously and constantly speak only about Krishna. Krishna says that one who gets to know me, aham sarvasya prabhavo matta sarvam pravartate iti matva bhajante mam buddha bhava samandita. He's saying that one who understands me, that everything is emanating out of me. Aham sarvasya prabhavo, I am the source of everything. Aham sarvasya pravatam, matta sarvam pravartate. Everything is emanating out of me. Such a person would not but worship me, because he would see the magnanimity of the Lord. He would see the generosity of the Lord. And he feels so grateful to the Lord. He'll understand how insignificant he is. And therefore, he would just talk about Krishna 24/7 all the time. So that is the conclusion of what Krishna will give to Arjun in this question that Arjun has asked. So I'll stop here. And if there are any comments or questions, we can now talk about that. It's already 43 past 20 now. Thank you very much. Hare Krishna. Okay, something is appearing in the chat. Hare Krishna. Pranam. Is there a difference between full samadhi and sthit pragnasya? Thank you. Also, just in general, approx 20% spiritual consciousness, 2 to 20% spiritual consciousness is the right way. Is that enough for a common man? Okay. So one would understand that samadhi means that one sits in a nice posture, breathing posture, and meditate upon the Lord and go into some sort of transcendental state of consciousness. So that's one way to look at samadhi. But the other way to look at samadhi is like Amrish Maharaj. If my all senses are engaged in the service of the Lord, that is the samadhi state. Srila Prabhupada explains that our minds cannot stay empty, which means that mind has a tendency to desire. It's a reservoir of desires. Now, desires, we can have material desires, which are contaminated desires, and we can have pure desires, which are the desires to serve the Lord. Now, when the living entity's desire to serve the Lord intensifies, solidifies, becomes spontaneous, in such a state of consciousness, all his senses will always be running towards the engagement in the service of the Lord. The hands, the legs, the eyes, the ears, the mouth, the speech, the tongue, everything. And Srila Prabhupada explains that the beginning of the spiritual consciousness will be tasting Krishna Prasadam and chanting Krishna's holy name. And of course, hearing Krishna Katha. So when all the senses are 100% engaged in the service to the Lord, that is called samadhi. That's called yukta vairagya. I'm renunciating. But what am I renunciating? I'm not renunciating the activities or the objects of activities. I'm renunciating the enjoying mentality. I'm renunciating the me and mine concept from my activities. And that's when engaged back in the service of the Lord, is called samadhi. That's how a devotee is in samadhi even in the dream state, because in our dream state, we only see what we do throughout the day and for many years. So when devotees are constantly practicing their sadhana bhakti, in their dreams also, the sadhana bhakti activities are manifesting. And therefore, a devotee is 24/7 engaged in service of Krishna and can be said in perfect samadhi. When devotees go out for book distribution, they are in samadhi because they are constantly engaged in the service of the Lord. They are worshipping the deity, they are in samadhi. Samadhi does not equate to no activities. Rather, it equates to activities in the service of Krishna. So then the question about percentage of the balance. Living entity in this material world is in perfect imbalance. Most of the imbalance is to the material side of the life. the constitutional position according to the scriptures and how the Srila Prabhupada has explained to us is that we are constant servitors. We are servants. We are servants of Krishna. But right now we are servants of the conditioned soul is servant of his own senses. Now, ironically, conditioned soul has no relationship with the material body or senses. But because he's embedded into this matter, material body, and he is forced to relate with the material body, therefore he constantly thinks he is the body, and therefore he's constantly serving the senses and the desires of the mind to serve the senses. And therefore, he's 100% imbalanced right now. Now, to gain the complete original balance, one should be 100% spiritual, 100% spiritual consciousness. Premanjana bhakti vilochalena. Santa sadaya videsha vilokayanti. Such a devotee will constantly seek Krishna in his heart. He wouldn't see anything else because there is nothing else that exists apart from Krishna and his energies. So he would be able to see exactly like Srila Prabhupada explained that one who is in slight knowledge of Krishna, he would see Krishna everywhere, just like a mother would see his child. In a room, there's a toy. Mother would see the child. Oh, my child, his toy is here. When she sees his clothes, she would see her child in those clothes. When she's cooking, she's seeing that child in the clothes. When she's carrying his books, she's seeing her child. So practically, she's seeing her child into every little thing that is related to the child. Prabhupada explains similarly, a devotee would see Krishna in everything. Oh, look, beautiful sun, that's Krishna's eyes. Oh, look, this nice, beautiful, fragrant flower, that is Krishna's smile. Oh, wow, this is nice taste of water, that is Krishna's taste. A nice, beautiful deities of Krishna, that is Krishna himself. He wouldn't be differentiating because that's the way he looks, because that's how his spiritual balance is 100% now. So if we say that we become 10% spiritual, 20% spiritual, no. The goal of human life is to become 100% spiritual. So at the time of death, we are at the state of anabhilashita shunyam. We have no other desires, but the only desire is to serve Krishna. And that is the goal of the life.
Thank you so much.
How can we be engaged in the service of Krishna 24/7 when we most of us are spending a third of the day at work? Thank you very much. That question is demanding a very practical reply. So as conditioned soul, we have our own responsibilities, because when we took birth, we didn't come from a huge bank balance of piety. Somehow or the other, we have come in contact with devotees of Krishna and we have taken up to the process of Krishna consciousness. And therefore, our material conditioning is there. And it will be there. It won't just go away like this. Although the process of bhakti is very potent. However, our tendency to enjoy the material energy is also very prominent, which comes in our way to accept the potent process, which has a potency to nullify all the material conditioning in a second. Lava matra sadhu sang, sarva siddha hoy. Just by the 100th fraction of the seconds or 1/10 of the second association of a pure devotee of the Lord, every spiritual knowledge can be realized. But what comes in the way? The enjoying mentality. And we are unable to give up that enjoying mentality. So as we advance in Krishna consciousness, we will see due course of time, our material enjoying mentality will subside or subdue in due course of time. And as we go through our varnashram system, which is our occupational duty, We all have our occupational duties, and we will go through these duties. As we progress in our duties, in due course of time, we will become Krishna conscious more and more. Couple of hours, then we chant for 2 hours, we worship the deities for half an hour. In due course of time, we will see how Krishna conscious activities will start to fill in our life and space. Our taste for the mundane will go away, for sure. We will not like to go to see movies, theaters, which are mundane, which are not related to Krishna. We'll not like to eat things which are not related to Krishna. And there will come a time then we would like to be engaged in the projects of Krishna consciousness or in the service of Krishna directly. And that time, we'll become 100%, 24/7 engaged in Krishna's service. Meanwhile, we have to endure. And a devotee would constantly pray inside his heart to Krishna, oh my Lord, I am being put in this situation because of my own desires. I do not qualify to be engaged in your service 100%. But can I aspire to be in such a situation that one day by your mercy, O my Lord, if you so desire, can put me into a situation that I can be engaged in your service and therefore I can fulfill the mission of this human body, human life, human machine that you have given to me. And when devotees constantly pray within like this in their hearts and chant the holy names of the Lord very mercifully, as he has promised in Bhagavad Gita, that such devotees who are not able to leave their material desires, but they do want to come to me, I personally go into their heart and light the fire of knowledge within their heart so that they can come to me. This is how this process works. That it is so intense and so within ourselves because it needs genuinity, a genuine prayer from the heart. When that comes and emerge on the tongue of a devotee in a very helpless situation, like a child to a mother, that point in time, Krishna himself bestow that mercy upon that devotee, that the desire in his heart purifies. And when that changes, his action will change, his work will change, his behavior will change. And that's how. So it's not a easy journey. It's a simple journey, but it's not an easy journey. And we see from life of Srila Prabhupada themselves what difficult journey it was for him to come to the state where he came to the West after so much of struggle, traveling through the sea and going through the immense amount of poverty, material poverty. He was materially impoverished, but spiritually so strong and strengthened. So Krishna will reciprocate to the desire of a living entity, of a devotee, a practicing devotee. And as much a devotee desires to let go the enjoying mentality, to that extent, Krishna will bestow his mercy and give knowledge within the heart of the living entity so that he can come closer to Krishna. Sorry. So I see no other question on the chat box now. It's almost coming close to 9. I hope I've explained these questions in best of the capacity and my understanding of Srila Prabhupada's books. If there is any other comment, please say so. Otherwise, we'll close this session here. There's a message. Thank you very much for a useful answer. But what if we die before attaining 100% spiritual consciousness? Okay, this is a very relevant question. And Arjun also asked this question that what if somebody dies? So let's say somebody dies at 98% and 2% still remaining. Or very little. So that person. So I want to quote an example here. One time, Srila Prabhupada has gone to university, I think University of Berkeley, if I recall correctly, in America, where a gentleman asks him this very question. He asks him that what happens if we do not achieve perfection in the Bhakti Yoga? And Srila Prabhupada says, there's nothing lost. You will start from where exactly you left. It's not like material bank balance that is lost forever. It is a bank balance that you create, you grow it, and it never diminishes. So wherever, and that gentleman who asked this question was nobody else but His Holiness Tamal Krishna Goswami Maharaj. Tamal Krishna Maharaj asked this question, and by hearing the answer from Srila Prabhupada, he was so convinced to follow the process of Bhakti Yoga, and he became one of the greatest leader and right-hand men of Srila Prabhupada in spreading the mission of this Krishna consciousness. So this conviction that is given in Bhagavad Gita and by our acharyas, that whatever little or more we do will never be diminished. And therefore we see many devotees who come to Krishna consciousness movement, they very quickly grow up to a very advanced stage because they had this pious credit within from their past lives, or they got the mercy of their spiritual masters in such a way that they became very advanced. Similarly, wherever we live, we will start in our next life exactly from the same place. So there is no diminishing of spiritual credits at all. Okay, dear devotees, it's 9 o'clock. Thank you very much. Vancha kalpatarubhyascha kripa sindhubhaya vicha patitanam pavnebhyo namo namaha. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna,
Hare
Krishna
Krishna,
Krishna,
Prabhuji.
Hare Hare, Hare
Hare
Ram,
Ram,
Ram
Hare
Ram,
Ram.
Hare Hare.
Krishna,
Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Bhagavad Gita ki jai.
Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Prabhu.
Thank you so much.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji, Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna,
Hare Krishna Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna.